Know what's happening? We wanted to talk about the blue jay, the birds, the birds, the birds, the birds, the birds. Yeah, about concepts like spirit animal, and yes, I can't speak about these things without a grain of salt or humorous. You know, I have to be like a mockingbird, mocking a little bit about the spirit animal concept. Because if I took it too serious, I would resemble a narcissist that wants to sell you a narcissistic fantasy about. Oh god, no, bro, I can't just dive into this. Really? Yeah, we have, as people who burned their fingers with narcissistic abuse or borderline or psychopath, these are chameleons, face changing shapeshifters. So we can't even discern what they are, and they most certainly don't know what they are as well. They don't know who they are. But we're not talking about this. But what I want to say is, when you have burned your fingers with narcissists, you have a problem with fantasy, because you learned that fantasy can be malignant, sick, because the narcissist is more absence than anything else. And as a compensatory mechanism for this absence, they have this fantasy. And we also have a problem with narcissism, which is part of every human being. So this is why my videos are so ambivalent, because I at the same time criticize fantasy, or I want to sharpen awareness about fantasy, as well as narcissism. Yet while I criticize it, I also emphasize on how important it is for you. In other words, we need fantasy. Part of us, narcissism is a natural part, a component of the human psyche and development. It's just that we should not let it control us, or we should not drift away in fantasy, or take it one-dimensional, focus completely on that, right? This is why I do this way. And as you might know, I translate all these esoteric knowledge into subconsciousness and collective subconsciousness, so I draw it back into the psyche, and also the experience of life itself, and you are part of life. Your DNA resembles it, therefore you have experiences in form of DNA sequences that have emerged through trial and error as a decentralized intelligence, and create feelings, intuitions, and even narrations and pictures in form of archetypes and narrations, which is basically the same. In other words, in the realm of nature, we have shapes that occur, like the streamline of certain animals in the water, no matter whether it's a reptile or a fish or a mammal, will always take the same shape because it works. And the equivalent of these shapes that work, these builds, these archetypes, representation of that in the psychological realm is archetypes. And they are not living in the world, in the nature, but in consciousness and subconsciousness, something like that. But esoteric knowledges often translate this in a different language and call it spirit animals. Or when we talk about chakras, it's chakras. When we talk about anything else, it's anything else, right? But it's all, in my opinion, I draw all of this back into our psyche. So, and I can't fully explain everything, all synchronicities that I had in my life. It keeps being mysterious in some way. How is it possible that we have these feelings, these connections, and these occurrences? We witness things that happen that are statistically absolutely impossible or unlikely. But I want to just talk about the birds now. So in my experience, I have a special relationship to especially the corvids and my relationship to ravens and crows. So I don't make a distinction between them, all these completely black birds. I find them interesting. They are very social. At night, we can see them gathering and flying in the air, telling each other stories and quarreling and, doing crow stuff. I have seen them playing games like hanging overhead on a twig and then let go and really have fun. But yeah, they are very, intelligent and show signs of consciousness. And with that also comes darkness. So consciousness should not be idealized. It means that these birds can also be, like Nietzsche once said, has wisdom come to the earth like a raven that is aroused or excited about the smell of carrion? And this is one of his I think I didn't quote him perfectly, but he has an unbelievable talent to poetically catch a truth that nobody else and nothing else could ever lay hands on like he can. So crows they are mysterious, they're intelligent. I don't want to say they are evil, but they can be mocking and not sadistic, but almost like something in between. I can't really explain what I mean, but I mistrust them a little bit. Yet sometimes there is these moments where we realize it's just an animal. So I have saved a small crow, and I just wanted to help this little buddy. I took him home and contacted a person that takes wild animals and raises them. There is this a different way to have relationship or connect to animals. Sometimes we perceive them as what they are when they drink, when we really interact with them, But sometimes there is this nature of the feeling that we have a narration happening, or something is happening, something internally happens in us or in our life, and at the same time, externally, we witness something that resembles what happens inside of us. And I had these things with crows happening. And if I would tell you some stories about the crows or something else that I had with a wild hog, a feral pig, it's insane. scary. It's a little not a little bit scary, a little bit weird experiences. Like, okay, I think if I don't tell it, it gets worse, so I have to tell it. No, I once witnessed something that I've never seen before, and I think I will never see this again. It was like a crow storm. It was a lot of crows, very dense, flying, like as if they would pick something apart, tear something apart in the air like a swarm of piranhas. And at the same time, I felt something, and it was completely disconnected from my internal. I mean, it's an external event, and internally something happened with me just in the same moment, and I felt like something died in me in this moment, and I saw this with the crows. But it was synchronicity. So none of these two events were predecessing the other one. It was happening at the same time, and nobody can ever explain why something like that can happen. And the same applies to, yeah, and also I started to read Carl Gustav Jung's work about synchronicities, the book. And the same day I go running in the forest, and I feel like something must happen, and I run in a strange area where I know some people have created stone pillars, okay? And just in the middle of the way, in the sunlight, lies a pig, half dead, half alive, unable to run, with almost human eyes, looking scared and stressed because I walked past it. And I immediately went to the hunter and told him, I know him, and he killed the pig. By the way, he even contacted me later and gave me because he sent it to a doctor to find out why it died, but the diagnosis was unclear. So we got some information about what the pig had inside and what the reasons could have been, but it was not like we could lay finger on it. But yeah, he killed it. Yeah, but this is insane. Just at the same day when I start reading this book, I feel like something should happen. I should meet something. Something must happen. And then it's this pig lying in the middle of the road, unable to move, but still alive. And I can give sense to all of this internally, but I can't explain it in reality. But there is this real connection to the hunter. I have a witness and I have a document even about what probably killed this pig. So this is synchronicities. It's events that you cannot fully explain, and they correlate with your internal reality, and you can make sense of it. But only when you connect it to things that only you can know. This is weird, right? Yeah, and I also witnessed connections between people and magpies. And magpies, I would say I mistrust them even more than crows and ravens. Lumien, kannst du die Türe bitte zumachen? Yeah. And so there was a person that was connected to these birds. They were all around. When I think of them, when I walk outside, they appear. When I sit in my car and I think about making this video, suddenly magpies appear and play something. These are weird animals as well. So these are synchronicities again. And it happens all the time in all forms of shapes in my life, with formations of trees. I mean, I shared also this picture of this willow tree that looks like a statue with a head. but also with eagles, with falcons, with hawks, with reptiles, with amphibious animals, and you never prepared for it. But it keeps happening all the time. It's this is synchronicities, okay? So, yeah, I don't know how we got here. Dude, kids are so kiddos. Told a boy to close the door. He knows that, but he's just not aware of it. Lumi. All right. Yeah, I wanted to talk about blue jays. 15 minutes, still didn't talk about them. Yeah, so my relationship to crows and magpies, I have to fix it, and I'm on a good way to do this. Because there is also, when I look at a grand scale, my history of encountering the darkness, the shadow in people, because I don't have the shadow and the darkness integrated in my personality, because I was too much of a good person, so to speak, very plainly, too open, too social, too helpful, not taking enough, not being selfish enough, so to speak. Because of that, I had to make certain experiences. And again, these are chameleons, whether it's borderline, narcissist, psychopath, doesn't matter. They don't even know what they are, so why should we know what they are? But they're definitely not healthy human beings that can speak of the same experience and reality that I speak of when I have to treat them differently to make sense of the behavior. I mean, we give them chances, a lot of chances, hundreds of chances, but it just gets worse and worse, right? So at some point we need to pull that line across, it's over. And as I fix my relationship to myself, as I change myself, I change the relationship to these animals. And in other words, the nature around you might reflect a part of your shadow side. So if you not have integrated certain parts of your personality, it might be reflected in nature in the forms of synchronicities to teach you something. So if the magpies freak out, if the crows freak out, if the pigs freak out, if strange things happening, it's got to teach you something about yourself, about something that you have to fix to live in peace. Because peace, making peace with the world, making peace with other people, in the first place means to make peace with yourself. And to make peace with yourself, you might have to cut people off, confront people, hold people accountable, take back your energy, things like that. And for this you need abilities. And you might know that you have power, but only when you feel it and exercise it, it becomes reality. By this, you create peace for yourself, because people have taken advantage over you, have been parasitic and predatory in your life, And you have to cut them out, call them out, confront the avoidant spirit of the cowards. And when you do this, you feel your power, your authority, your royalty. I'm getting grandiose, right? It's a narcissistic fantasy. But this changes you. This changes you because you change your habits, you change your life, you change your behavior, you change your ideas, your understanding of what a moral system is, of what good and evil is, of everything. Shadow work, right? And this changes your relationship to nature. So suddenly crows are just crows. Suddenly magpies are just magpies. Suddenly the pigs stop lying in the way of you, half dead, half. But something new will happen. You know, suddenly a panda sits on your couch. Just a panda. Oh, there's a relationship in the grand scale. It's like when you start journaling your dreams. A dream is just a weird, little, unexplainable thing. But when you journal them, they become, in a grand scale, they make sense. The same with synchronicities. These come from, there's this magic subconscious connection that nobody can explain. Carl Gustav Jung tried to. And shamans will try to explain it with spirit animals. And other people will explain it in other ways. Yeah, so hey, it's great I made a video about blue jays without speaking about blue jays, so we will have to talk about the jays and the blue jays another time, because I like them. I have no problem with them, and they are always a good sign for me, just like doves. Excuse me. Yeah, so we will talk about this in another video.